This is breaking news.
Daycare center in the Bronx.
I'm Dana Tyler, breaking into regular programming. This is Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, talking about federal charges regarding the death of a toddler at a daycare center in the Bronx.
Facing federal charges that carry a maximum sentence of life in prison and a minimum sentence of 20 years in prison. I have made addressing the fentanyl epidemic a top priority of my time as U.S. Attorney here. We brought cases against the targets and cartels in Mexico that manufacture fentanyl, against individuals and companies in China that supply the cartels with precursor chemicals needed to make this poison. And we brought cases against the traffickers who move the fentanyl through our streets. But this case is different. We allege that the defendants poisoned 4 babies and killed one of them because they were running a drug operation from a daycare center. A daycare center. A place where children should be kept safe, not surrounded by a drug that could kill them in an instant. Here are some of the facts that we allege in our federal complaint. We allege that 2 defendants, Defendant Mendez and Defendant Acevedo Brito, along with their co-conspirators, ran a fentanyl distribution business out of a daycare center in the Bronx. At approximately 2:40 p.m. on Friday, September 15th, Mendez, who operated the daycare, called 911 to report that 3 children in her care required medical attention. And a 4th child, who was picked up by parents earlier in the day, was also taken to the hospital. 3 children were given Narcan to counter the effects of the opioid poisoning. And 1 child, a 1-year-old baby boy, was pronounced dead. When law enforcement officers searched the daycare, they found a large quantity of fentanyl and machinery used to press and package narcotics for distribution. And in particular, they found a brick of fentanyl, about 1 kilogram in weight, right on top of children's playmats in the daycare's closet. As alleged in the complaint, before emergency personnel arrived at the daycare, before they arrived, Mendez and a co-conspirator tried to cover up what happened. Seconds before Mendez called 911, she called a co-conspirator. Minutes later, a co-conspirator arrived at the daycare. Minutes later, he left the daycare and fled out the back alley, carrying 2 full shopping bags. And all of that happened while the children, the babies, were suffering from the effects of fentanyl poisoning and in desperate need of help. We immediately launched a federal investigation, and we've been working around the clock to uncover the truth. And we're now ready to bring these defendants to justice. This is a tragedy, and my heart breaks for the children and their families. But I promise you this. We're going to keep fighting for justice, in this case and in every other case involving this deadly poison. The people of this great city deserve nothing less. And I also have a message for anyone out there who is selling fentanyl. Stop pushing this poison. It kills. It ruins lives. And it will ruin yours too when we catch you, convict you, and send you to federal prison. Now, we could not have brought this case without the dedication and assistance of our partners at the DEA, the NYPD, and the entire OCDF New York Strike Force. And I also want to thank the SDNY Digital Forensics Unit and the Complex Analytical and Social Media Enhancement Team at the New York, New Jersey HIDA. I also want to thank the Bronx District Attorney's Office, and in particular my friend Darcel Clark, the DA, who has also filed state charges against these defendants. We will continue to coordinate with her office as this case proceeds. And finally, I want to thank the career prosecutors of my office handling this case, Brandon Thompson and Maggie Lanaugh, as well as Matthew Hellman and Kyle Wershba, the chiefs of the narcotics unit. And I want to turn the podium over to Frank Tarentino from the DEA.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Tarentino. I'm the special agent in charge of the DEA New York Division. In my 32 years of government service, 25 of which have been spent serving with the DEA, there is no more devastating news or tragedy than the loss of a child. And every New Yorker should be outraged by this senseless tragedy. Unfortunately, the victim's family joins a long list of hundreds of thousands of grieving Americans who has lost a loved one, 110,684 to be exact, as a result of drug poisoning. Fentanyl is a killer. Fentanyl crept into our illicit drug supply like a cancer, slowly and deceptively, and is now in everything and everywhere, killing victims instantly and indiscriminately. Fentanyl is the most urgent threat in our nation. And the tragedy that unfolded in the Bronx at the Danino Nino Daycare Center demonstrates the danger that fentanyl poses to every New Yorker. As this investigation continues, I want to reiterate DEA's commitment to holding those predatory criminals accountable for trafficking this poison throughout our communities. I commend the work of our investigators from the DEA Strike Force, the NYPD, and our partners at the Southern District of New York and the Bronx District Attorney's Office, who work tirelessly every single day to stop drug poisonings from taking too many lives too soon. This is not a war on drugs. This is a fight to save lives. Thank you.
Be happy to take some questions.
The co-conspirator described in the complaint, the husband of Mendez, who removed the 2 bags from the location, why is he not charged, and what is his status?
So we're not done. Let me just put it that way. I think you should just look out for more on that soon. Next question.
How confident are you that investigators will be able to locate that co-conspirator?
We're not going to give up. We're going to get him. Next question.
Thanks. Damian or Frank, were either Mendez or the co-defendant or the husband on the DEA's radar? Is this a location that you had been familiar with previously?
So I'm not going to be able to speak to any kind of broader connections. It's fair to say that this is something that we're going to run to ground and make sure that the case doesn't stop here. Those drugs came from somewhere. We're going to make sure that we get it all the way back to the source.
And Damian, what does it say about, what does this case, that as you say, shocked the conscience of the city, say about where we are with fentanyl and what it's doing to the community?
Look, I've been clear that this is not only a law enforcement crisis, but it's a public health crisis. You know, fentanyl, a tiny amount, almost imperceptible to the eye, can kill an adult. And so imagine what it can do to the body of a little baby, right? That's what we're seeing right now. And so there's no need to panic. However, it's a crisis. And all tools that we have at our disposal need to be brought to bear. That's why I talked about not only targeting the cartels in Mexico and the folks who supply the precursor chemicals in China, but also making sure that we don't take our eye off the ball on Main Street, right? In the corners of our city where the most vulnerable people live and can be harmed by this drug. Next question.
Thank you. Can you tell us if you think there's any connection that they had with existing cartels that have been under surveillance or recently prosecuted?
So I'm not able to speak to connections that we're looking to draw. You know, that is a subject of investigation. Next question.
The kilo of fentanyl that was discovered on a placemat, was that the same placemat that children were napping on? And is that how they were exposed? Or was it possibly a different exposure?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to speak to that. That's outside the 4 corners of our charging document.
Was it in a closet, the playmats?
Again, I'll just refer you back to my last answer.
Matthew Lee, Innocent Press.
I guess I just want to confirm that you're going to be seeking a remand of these 2. And I wanted to know if you find the people further up that supplied the fentanyl, can they be charged in connection with the death in the view of your office? So
I'm not going to speculate on the back end of the question, but with regard to whether we're going to be seeking detention, the answer is yes.
Yes, is it clear if the daycare center was set up expressly for the purpose of hiding the operation, or did the drug operation come after the formation of it, if it's clear yet?
I'm unfortunately not able to speak to that.
Last question.
Can you say, either of you can say where the geographic source of the fentanyl was? Was it Mexico, the Far East, or other points in the hemisphere? And how reckless was it to have that stuff near where these children would be reposed?
So look, let me address what you asked at the end. I'm a lawyer, right? I'm the United States Attorney here, but I'm a father. And I'm sure many of you are parents too. And common sense dictates that when you drop off your baby, you expect the baby to be kept safe. And so I don't think there's any other way to look at it other than it being incredibly reckless, one of the most reckless things that a human can do, to endanger the life of a child like that. That's why we're here. Thank you, everyone.
Hello. Again, this has been a special report as you've been listening to the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, and Frank Tarentino, the special agent for the DEA for the state, talking about the federal charges now against the two people, the one woman who runs that daycare in the Bronx on Morris Avenue and someone who was renting a room. The federal charges that the SDNY attorney was talking about. Gray Mendez, that's the woman who runs the daycare. Carlisto Acevedo Brito, the man who was renting a room there. They've been charged with narcotics possession with intent to distribute resulting in death and conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death in connection with the overdose of 4 children under the age of 3, one of whom died at the daycare facility in the Bronx on last week on Friday. This tragedy here that has not only gripped New York, but the nation. And also, as we've heard over and over from Mayor Adams yesterday and the health commissioner, Ashwin Vasan, just talking about children. How can we do this to our children? And again, talking about this imperceptible, tiny amount of fentanyl, an opioid, that can kill an adult. And police saying that a brick was found in there, a brick of the drug, next to the mats for children. The woman, the district attorney alleges, called first her husband, who is still on the loose. Police and federal agents are looking for him, before she called 911 to say that children were sick. 3 were still there. 1 was taken home. Authorities got there. These kids were given Narcan. And again, one of them, this sweet little boy, died. And the others, we're told, are doing better. They were in pretty rough condition when they went to the hospital. We will continue to cover this extraordinarily tragic story, a sign of our times, battling this horrible drug, and the 110,000, add the kids to that, nationwide who've died from drug overdoses. Look for team coverage tonight on CBS 2 News at 5 and 6, and of course continuing on our website, cbsnewyork.com. I'm Dana Tyler. I'll see you at 6 o'clock. We'll go now back to your afternoon programming.
This has been breaking news.